Welcome to I Got a Guy podcast, a podcast carefully designed to introduce a wide range of very talented and highly skilled professionals ready to share their knowledge and advice with you. Please welcome the host of I Got a Guy podcast, Michael Drelichars. Welcome to I Got a Guy podcast. I'm your host, Michael Drelichars. Thank you so much for being with us yet again. We have so many loyal subscribers, and we really appreciate the attention and the support of our guests. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about the value of small businesses and how vital it is to the health of our economy and health of our country. And I, as a small business owner, I really I'm passionate about the entrepreneurial spirit, and I want to help small businesses out every chance we can. And we appreciate the fact that you supporting our guests really helps that. And so I want to thank you for that. If you are new to I Got a Guy podcast, if you just found us, you can listen to all of our past episodes on our website. They're all listed there sequentially with a small snippet show notes for each one of our episodes, and pick and choose the episode that fits you best. You can listen to us on a wide range of audio platforms. You can also watch the episodes on YouTube and Rumble, so you can kind of see it if you want, if that's easier or better for you. Whatever floats your boat works for us. We want to be provide that opportunity to anybody that needs it. And if you want to be a guest on our upcoming episode, there's a pop up on their website that allows you to put your information in or send us a message, and we'll have a conversation, see if we can get you in the schedule in the upcoming shows here. So that's igotaguypodcast.com. So this show was really born out of reading a book called The Go-Giver, and it was so focused on small businesses growing through giving referrals. And so many people think referral networking is all about getting referrals. The reality is that you get referrals by giving referrals. And so if you haven't read the book, Bob Burg is the author. It's a great little book. Just interesting little stories. I've read it several times, and I encourage everyone to read it as well. So let's transition now to this week's guest. This week we have actually one of my suppliers joining us today, and we're going to talk in depth about a specific niche within GPS tracking. And so we have Chad Bowen on from SVR Tracking. Chad, welcome to the episode. Thanks for being with us.
Mike, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Chad, you and I have worked together now for many months, and I've appreciated getting to know you, and appreciate your guidance, your insight, your experiences, and I'm anxious to have you share some of that here with our audience as well.
Yeah, likewise.
Well, let's start by let's talk about SVR tracking itself. It's not a household name, if you will. You know, it's kind of a niche product, and something that I think our audience might be interested in hearing a little bit about. Let's talk about your background and SVR itself.
Yeah, so my background, I've been in really the automotive space for almost 20 years, and it may not look like it, but I started really young. I worked for an auto parts distributor out of Columbus, Ohio, for 17 years. So 7 years as a part-timer through high school and college. And they were gracious enough to hire me on as a full-time employee in a sales-focused role. And I was able to really grow. And I talk about it in terms of I grew up within those four walls of that company. They taught me the good and the bad, and certainly put me on a trajectory to get where I am today. So when I started there, I was ground level. I was stocking shelves in our warehouses and delivering parts and taking out trash and stacking battery cores to be picked up. And then when I got on the professional side, I really dug deep for over 4 years just running a territory. And I always say it. I'm really not that gifted of a sales guy. It's more of just doing the fundamentals and the basics really well. Talking about trying not to do something 100% great, but trying to do a lot of things really well, and you become a very well-rounded salesperson doing that. So in that sales role, in 4 years, I was able to double the territory. and was given opportunities to move up, and I did over time, and eventually, ran the parts sales division for the organization, and it was about a $70 million business at the time, and then really helped guide it through our COVID years, and later was asked to step into a director business development role and to try and find some new businesses and try to be creative and find something that we could increase and diversify our business with, and so I got a ton of experience there. I worked in every department of that company except for finance and technology, which was great. So
Yeah.
and then and so really cut my chops there. Later moved in to a very brief stint in the commercial industrial lighting industry here with a manufacturer in Cincinnati, which is where I'm based, and did well. We grew business and really had a hankering to get back into automotive. And that's what led me into the GPS space. And I did a short time with another GPS company, and knew of the SVR guys. I mean, the GPS world, as you mentioned, SVR is not probably a household name, but like anything, it's a small world. We all play in the same sandbox, so to speak. So I knew of these guys and knew what they were about, and the right opportunity came about. And so SVR is I like to say we're a soup to nuts company. And what I mean by that is we don't just take someone else's device and load our firmware and software on it and try to make it our own. We actually build our own devices, so much so that that is a big piece of our business is building hardware, and we actually sell to a lot of our competitors. So what you'll actually see out in the GPS space is you could hold up an SVR device and somebody else's device, and it'll look exactly the same. Well, it's because we built both of them, and and so, as I like to say, if they're good enough for our competitors, that must mean we're pretty darn good at what we do. So,
No doubt.
um, you know, as a soup to nuts company, we're building our devices, we're taking our firmware, putting our spin on it, and we test it, we validate it ourselves, and then we launch it into the market in the SVR under the SVR banner. And so what that for me really inherently tells me as a consumer is these guys own the process. SVR owns our process. So we're not relying on third parties to get us product. We're not relying on third parties to fix issues. Inevitably in this business, as you know, Mike, there's always going to be issues that pop up. Yes, we are using third party networks and carriers, and that's part of the business, and those are things we have to navigate. But when it comes to things that we control, um, we can get to the root of it very quickly. Another great thing about SVR is our leader, our founder, was one of the original founders of one of the major original players in this business. So as I say, our roots start at the beginning of this business. So no, we're not well known. That's going to change, by the way, over time. But we are a leader. We believe we're a leader in this because our founders and the people that are in the business today, driving it forward with new technology, new products, new processes, uh, getting us into new industries. They were there at the beginning, and they're still involved today. So, we think at SVR we are ripe for growth, and we're ripe to expand this brand.
Right. No doubt. And the one of the benefits is, GPS GPS tracking is, under this umbrella of the Internet of Things. And there's so
Yes.
much growth in this area, and that the technology will continue to be enhanced and folded into other products. And so
Mhm.
I think it's when you put it all together, we spend a lot of time marketing these products to car dealers and people with vehicles. But the reality is, it's going to, and it has already, but it's going to continue to evolve into a much broader market segment, and that's exciting.
Yeah, and we think so too. I mean, this for SVR, our business was built, number one, through small businesses. It was built on the backs of guys like you, quite frankly. We have a very clear mission at SVR about how uh, we what we do well is build product and service it and make it work, because that it needs to happen. It needs to work for this to actually be
Right.
a beneficial business for people. Uh, what and what the individual our individual resellers, what we call our resellers, guys like you, are small business guys. Uh, we believe that is actually a huge differentiating factor for us. That uh, that we in San Diego cannot service that customer as well as you can, and we know that this is a highly relational business, and so what that means is essentially let us do what we do well, and we're going to let our resellers do what they do well. That's building the relationships, owning those relationships, and growing over time. And part of that growth, yeah, absolutely means getting into kind of outside of that buy here, pay here, that independent space. We that is where our business started. That's our niche. And we also, obviously get into the franchise dealer world as well. It's a little different play in the GPS world when you're talking about a buy here, pay here, or an independent store compared to a new franchise. And if we want to get into that, we can. Um, but we also know there's a big sandbox, there's a big playground to go
Correct.
after. And so as a forward looking company, which I am very excited to say that we are constantly evaluating our portfolio, our product portfolio, to say, how do we better serve other industries? Just about anything that someone wants tracked, a GPS device can help do that. And so whether that is vehicles, motorcycles, power sports, containers, buildings, trailers, heavy equipment. It doesn't matter. There's so many different areas, but we have to have the product to be able to get us there. And so one of the things
Right.
I'm really excited about looking in the future is expanding this portfolio, especially on the wireless side, where we can get specific application driven products instead of trying to use an existing device that kind of fits an application. Let's be focused and go build a device that is specifically for that application, which with the feature set that it needs to have for that application, that is what's going to win us new business. That's one of the things that I'm trying to drive forward with our network is let's absolutely focus on our core business. We can't forget about it. We were built in the buy here, pay here, uh, uh, independent and franchise dealerships. We can't forget about that. That's our bread and butter. But we can grow in so many different ways, and we're going to help you as a small business guy go and do that by giving you the tools you need to do it.
Yeah, and that's great. And a couple points I want to touch on there. First of all, I'm proud to be a reseller of SVR and have been for several years. And I was introduced to SVR through acquiring a book of business from another reseller that was retiring. So I was able to acquire his accounts and been growing his accounts from that point forward. And a couple things that I noticed. First of all, SVR within that buy here pay here space, SVR's got a very strong reputation for having a really good system. And the device is a device. It's a piece of hardware. It's a piece of plastic with some wires coming out of it and some technology inside of it. And that's all fine and good. But when you need to use it, if you can't use it easily, what's the point?
Yep,
So
that's
it
right.
doesn't matter what it costs if when you need to find that asset you can't find it because the system is too arduous to get through.
Hmm.
It's a waste of money. So SVR has got a very good system
Yep.
for that, and many dealers have commented about that. The other thing I really wanted to focus on also is as an independent reseller. I'm a small business, and I'm primarily based here in the Chicagoland area, but I have clients throughout the country, and I'm growing a base of customers actually in Florida. Um, but what makes us different is that a lot of our competitors they have huge call centers overseas. That when a customer has a question, they have to call into a call center, and there might be a language barrier. and they certainly never see anybody face to face. I actually meet
Absolutely.
my clients face to face. Here in the Chicagoland
Mhm.
area, I deliver my tracking units in person myself, and I get to talk to that business owner one on one. I shake their hand. I drop off the units if they have a question. When you answer their question, if they need some training, we train them. They and I can do this usually fairly rapidly. I typically have stock in my office, so a customer will call me at 10 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes by 2 p.m. in the afternoon, I'm delivering tracking units to their office.
Yes.
And what we find with the you know sometimes a little frustrating, frankly, but we find that a lot of these car dealers are very reactionary. You know,
Mhm.
they go to prep a car for sale, and then they go to reach for a tracker, and it's gone. And they're like, "Oh, I'm out of trackers. How quick do you need it?" Well, like right now, I've had clients that
Yep.
are saying, "Well, I have a customer waiting for this car, so as soon as you can get here, I'm going to install this tracker, and he's going to drive away with the car." So they don't have time for a shipment overseas, or 3 days for a shipment to arrive. They need it right away, and I'm proud of the fact that we are designed to be able to serve that, and that's a point of differentiation.
Oh, absolutely. And it's what I mentioned earlier. We are 100% committed to that because that's the beauty of the reseller network. We are based in San Diego, and to hit on your call center point, um, our customer support team is all US based in San Diego. Now you say, okay, well, that's a corner of the country way down in the Southwest. But number one, they're US based, so you don't necessarily have the language barriers. But as a US based customer service center in a US based within a US based company, we're all housed in the same office building. So as if there are major issues, if there are lingering issues, they generally get resolved pretty quickly because our leaders are just down the hall and they can go to them. Our engineering team is just down the hall. So that is one of our differentiators. And we believe you're not waiting on some call center halfway across the world to get back to you. And because they're all right here. And then, with the reseller network, again, I go back to that idea of what SVR does well is build devices and deploy those devices. What the reseller network does well is build the relationship, and that same day, next day service is what wins more business. That's something that in San Diego at SVR we can't do. Everything's going to be at best an overnight shipment. And if you got a customer waiting there, waiting to pick that vehicle up, that could be a problem. That could lose a sale. That is what we believe is one of the beauty of our reseller network that
Right.
makes us different from the rest. And we're investing in it. We're looking at trying to add additional in areas that we don't have great coverage because we know that this model works. We've been in business over a decade. We've deployed over 3 million devices. Almost 1 million of those devices are still in use on our platform. So we know that our devices work, and we barely scratched the surface. And so I am such a huge proponent of this, and I believe so much in this model, that I've made it a mission of mine in my tenure here for as long as that hopefully is a long time, for as long as it's going to be, is to strengthen and build that network to be even bigger and better.
Right. That's awesome. I appreciate that. And since you've joined SVR, I can honestly tell you that I have seen some significant changes and enhancements. So you've made an impact, and you and working
Appreciate that.
with the rest of the team, it is a different approach, and it's really
Mhm.
encouraging, and customers have noticed it as well. So
It's
I
great.
am optimistic, and I'm looking forward to plenty of growth here in the coming months and years as well, and keep serving the clients.
Yeah. No, and that's so great to hear, and that quite frankly, that was one of my core missions and direction from leadership was, hey, let's go build and strengthen this network. Let's make it better because when they do better, we're going to do better. And then back on your point, with our platform, the portal that the customers see as they're managing their devices, and we again because of our roots, because we know what works and we know what doesn't work. The devices, in a lot of ways, I always say this, that everyone builds, for the most part, everyone builds a great device. Generally, where I believe we're going to win business is on the UI side, making it easy to navigate, making it easy to transfer transfer contracts in and out of lending institutions, from the dealership to the lending institutions, making it easy when there's a warranty claim, anything like that. We can make the customer and our resellers' lives easier. We know what works. We've seen the good and the bad, and at best, what you're going to see with that portal and that dashboard is, we know it works. We're not going to try and change the skeleton of that. We might try to update the look of it from time to time to bring it,
Sure.
freshen it up, and give it a nice,
Sure.
little look. We have our mobile app as well that we haven't talked about. Same thing, very easy. The tiles are big. It's not cumbersome to try and put a device into a repo mode. It's not cumbersome to try and locate it on a map. It's not cumbersome to try and find the health of the vehicle. All those things that you want to see within that app. And we'll make updates and make it look a little nicer as time goes on, and give it a fresh look. But we hear the same thing: that, hey, your system is easy to use, and don't change that. We've heard that loud and clear.
That's good. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm glad we're able to provide that feedback and that you all listen to our feedback, because nothing's worse than.
And that's a.
Go on.
I was going to say that's a big part of it. That's a big part of it too. Is, again, it's easy to get in silos, and especially at the manufacturer level, when we're not the feet on the ground, if we're not responsive to the info that's coming back to us, that's a primary role that you and I have together. Is you call me, hey, this is going on, or if you could do this. We get input like that all the time. We can't always act on it. Sometimes it doesn't. It's just not going to work. Sometimes an idea is something that we can't accommodate. But if there is a business case for it, if it is a process improvement that improves the customer experience, and that customer experience is twofold from our vantage point. Our end user customer experience needs to be really good, but our reseller customer experience needs to be really good too.
Sure.
The challenge that we could face is, we could be just one line on a line card for somebody, and the harder we make that transaction, the harder we make that relationship, the less and less time that we're going to get. So again, another focus of mine is, how do we make doing business with us easier? And I'm so glad to hear that we've made some good progress, but it's not enough. And that's one thing you'll as we go on, and our relationship is, I'm always going to be pushing to be better. There's no other way to go about it. It's too easy to fall back into complacency.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's great. I appreciate that, because it is a constant evolution. In order to, if you're not evolving and not enhancing, you're going backwards, because somebody else is enhancing their product. So
that's right.
Keep going.
That's right.
Chad, we're going to take a quick break here, and then come back, and I want to talk a little bit more about some of the specific applications, because we did touch on buy here, pay here cars, but there's a lot more that these SVR units can help. And our audience aren't necessarily car dealerships, so we want to kind of help them understand how we can help them as well. So let's hear from our sponsor. We'll come back, and then we'll continue getting into some detail. So we'll be right back. Thank you for listening to I Got a Guy podcast. I hope you're getting a lot of knowledge from this week's guest. But now a word from our sponsor. Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions works with business owners that own commercial vehicles. We help these business owners enhance their growth and profit through the use of GPS tracking technology. Specifically, Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions is known for 3 key principles. First, we are very knowledgeable in the field of GPS tracking and working diligently to learn more every day. Second, we are accessible. We do not hide behind a toll-free number, and we do not have any overseas call centers. We know our clients personally, and we're extremely committed to serving all of our clients as we'd want to be served. And third, we are responsive. We deliver our GPS units promptly and work diligently to install as quickly as possible. Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions is consistently striving to exceed our clients' expectations. You can learn more about Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions at precisefleettracking.com or call us at 847-865-6008. Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. We make GPS tracking simple. Now, back to the show. Okay, we are back. I'm Michael Drellichars, host of I Got a Guy podcast. Thank you for sticking with us. This week, we are chatting with Chad Bowen from SVR Tracking, one of my suppliers in the GPS tracking space. And Chad, thank you for joining us. We've had a great conversation thus far. Appreciate getting to know more
Yeah,
about
it's great to
SVR.
be here.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So we talked before the break about SVR from a holistic perspective, a high level perspective, and a little bit about the independent car dealers, the buy here, pay here, as it's referred to in the industry. But we also know that these tracking units can work for a lot of other applications that the average user could benefit from. I'd like to dig into some of those applications, and I've had some experiences as well. So I want to kind of have you kind of start the conversation about some of these other applications that are beneficial.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, the core of our business has been the independent buy here, pay here dealer, the franchise dealer, and then along with that, kind of coupled with those two is lending firms, so finance companies who are loaning the money for all of these vehicles, and so we kind of have those as our baseline, but there are so many different areas that a GPS device can be applicable to. So, we have things like motorcycle and the power sports. We've seen as an industry, the power sports industry has exploded in the last 10 to 20 years. I know I can walk around my neighborhood and the number of ATVs and go-kart type vehicles, they're all there. They all could potentially be stolen. And so there's an opportunity there, right?
And they're all pretty expensive as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so so you've got motorcycles, power sports, marine, boating. Boats are not cheap. Those are a perfect candidate for that. And then we're looking at things like heavy equipment. So fleet companies, as they are looking to track their fleets, right? That's your business. That's a big part of what you do every day. And then kind of we can get into the a little more abstract, a little more crazy. So things like shipping containers. And one example that we have as a recent win is we have a reseller in the central part of the country who had an opportunity to put one of our wireless devices on a portable metal building. So a gentleman there builds portable metal buildings, builds several hundred a month, and unfortunately they were getting stolen, and he was out a lot of money. For relatively cheap, he was able to put one of our devices on every one of his buildings that he's producing, and all of a sudden he now has instant live tracking of where all of those buildings are. So this is something that we hadn't even considered as an opportunity. Quite frankly, I thought it was a little difficult to understand how you steal a metal building, but apparently people are creative and they figured it out. The GPS device is perfect for that application.
Sure.
And so we're trying to really open our minds to where else can this go. To go a little further, one product that we are bringing out soon. I don't have a timeline on it yet, so I'll leave it as soon. Is everyone's aware of kind of the Apple AirTag phenomenon, right? You've got an Apple device. You put a little tag on your car, on a small piece of a key or something like that, a backpack. But the limitation is it's only works when it's close to an Apple product. So which has access to either internet or Wi-Fi. We're going to bring out a product that is very similar to that. And so what that also gets us into is some of the landscape and maintenance companies. So in a former life, I too was a small business owner. I owned a tree service company here in Southwest Ohio. And one of the things that I used to get very frustrated with was seeing $1,500 or $2,000 chainsaws being taken, just disappear off the face of the earth. And I'd have to go and replace those. That is one area that we could help solve. One of the big downsides to the current GPS hardware market is they fit cars. They're relatively discreetly hidden in cars. It's hard to discreetly hide a GPS device on a chainsaw. And
Right.
so, how do we build product that gets us into that market? And how do we enter it as at a price point that makes sense to put some sort of tracking device on a $500 to $2,000 piece of equipment? Lawnmowers, anything like that that you can think of. So, trailers is another one. I have a small farm about 20 miles from my house. I'm not there every day. I have a trailer with a very expensive piece of equipment on it. I have one of our trackers on that trailer because I want to know where those two pieces of equipment are at all times. So there's just so many different areas that even outside of the B2B space that I think
Mhm.
are totally wide open for us to go after.
Yeah, there's a couple areas that I've been able to serve through clients that have found us or we have found. Um, One is classic cars.
Yes, absolutely.
You have a expensive Corvette. I happen to have a '67 GTO, and I have a
Mm.
tracking, and I don't
You have to
have a
show me
wired in.
that sometime, Mike.
Yeah, it's a great vehicle, convertible, 4 speed. It's awesome. But I have a
Nice.
tracking in there because although it's rarely out of my garage, and when it's out of the garage, I'm with it. But you never
Hmm.
know when things happen. You know,
Hmm.
you you have an expensive toy, a hobby, what have you, um, for a very relatively small amount of money. And
Hmm.
let's say round numbers $100 to protect
Hmm.
a piece of equipment that's worth tens of thousands of dollars. It's a really logical uh,
Absolutely.
process. Um, and I've heard somebody, and I haven't had this application yet, but I've heard of it happening where people put these on like beehives.
Mm.
Beehives are typically in the back of a piece of property. They're away
Yeah.
from the homestead, the house, the barn, what have you, and the bees are just flying in there, depositing their honey, and they're actually
Wow.
very expensive. Bees are very expensive. The honey is expensive,
Yes.
and I had heard of a company, and I can't remember what state it was in, but they lost 15 beehives. Somebody just came up and
Wow.
with a truck and just picked them up and drove away with them.
Mm.
So,
That's amazing.
I've heard of putting trackers on even porta potties and things like that.
Yes.
There's all types of
Yes.
applications where sadly in the world we live in, there are people that seem like they're entitled to take anything that they want. If it has
Yes.
value to them and it will cost you money, you may as well protect it.
Hmm.
And we have a lot of folks with tractors, like in your case, tractors or farm equipment in a farm that they may not be at regularly. And worst thing comes, you come back to your property, you haven't been there for 3 weeks, and your trailer's gone, your tractor's gone, and you have no
Yep.
idea when it was stolen. So it's
Yep.
almost impossible at that point to connect the dots and recover it. So we have the ability
Yes.
to do that, and so we have we sell a lot of the wireless trackers, and they come with a really nice magnetic mount. So it can
Hmm.
be, it doesn't have to be screwed into a piece of equipment. It can be attached magnetically. Really strong
Yes.
magnet.
It's
Uh,
secure. That's right.
they are very, very secure. I'm amazed how
Yes.
strong those magnets are. Um, so we can fit almost any application. It's really
Hmm.
exciting because I talk to people all the time that have really unique situations, and we're able to solve that for them.
Yeah, I mean, our wireless devices, I think, are almost unlimited in the applications that we can go into. And like you said, they're outdoor devices, so they stand up to heat and humidity. water, all those things, that dust that you need to keep out. A beehive. Gosh, we have our devices in beehives now. I mean, that's amazing. So, and our portfolio is going to expand. This is what I mentioned earlier is, we understand, we know how to make a great device. Now we can move to step two of how do we make a great device for each individual application? And they don't always have to be different. When you're talking about a motorcycle or a power sport type vehicle, they're not big like cars, so they need to be smaller, and they need to be able to put under the frame or underneath, some compartment within there. So these are the types of innovations that we are moving towards as a step two in my tenure, and as well as our leadership's tenure. Is if we're going to grow in these areas, if we're going to get into these types of daily things of, hey, you would have never thought where we could use this. Hey, we've got the right device for you. All along, while we have the traditional applications as well. And so
Right.
it's a very exciting time for our product portfolio, an exciting time for us growing and finding folks like you who are going to get outside the box and go, hey, I got an idea.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah.
So let's dive in a little bit more on this future offering. When you were talking about for like chainsaws, is this going to be sort of like similar to an AirTag where it's RFID or Bluetooth to a phone,
So
or will it have a GPS, a cellular chipset inside of it?
So it'll be Bluetooth. Yeah. So Bluetooth technology. So you're really kind of the thought process is having owned a more construction or blue collar type of role. You understand that your trucks and trailers go to one spot each night. That's your yard. And so if you've got the Bluetooth technology, there would be a more or less a mesh network built on that property that says, and you put up alert systems. Every time that truck and trailer leaves, it's going to know that it's moving, it's checked in, and if it doesn't come back, if it doesn't alert and say, "Yep, it left with five devices or five units of chainsaws or whatever is on that trailer, mowers," hey, crew leader, guess what you get to do? You get to go back and find that everywhere you stopped today. So you're going to know where it is every morning and every night. And if it's not back at night, you know that in that time period, somewhere along your route that day, that it's missing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great, and I think
Yeah.
that certainly helps the business owner manage their business, because these pieces of equipment are expensive.
And on top of that, because you have that mesh network within your dealership, within your business location, you can use all those different tags, and they're going to help you find where those are on your map, on your location, at your location. So it, in a way, could be used as an inventory tool, a lot management tool. And so this has application to car dealerships for keys and other important equipment, and it has applications outside of the car dealership world,
Sure.
like we talked about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
great.
that's a future state project for us.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see how that unfolds, because I actually work with a lot of landscape companies, and also restoration companies. Restoration companies, they handle when your basement might get flooded, and they'll bring in air handlers and air movers, blowers, and there's a small one company that actually is a current client of mine, and they have about 100 air handlers in a small company, and
Hmm.
it's hard for a business owner to keep track of all 100 of those, because you'll grab 10 or 20 to go on a job site, and you hope 10 or 20 come back at the end of the day or end of the project. And if they don't, then all of a sudden you look and well, I had 100, now I'm down to 75. What happened to
Yep.
those 25 units? You have no idea what happened to them. And even if they only cost a couple $100 a piece, it starts to add up, and it cuts into the bottom line of the business. So it
It's a
impacts the
huge
business owner.
expense.
It's huge.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I was just working with a company, and they a big landscape group, and they buy every year they buy at least 35 line trimmers a year.
Yep.
Now, some of them they have to replace because they wear out, they break, but they're $400 a
Absolutely.
piece.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's an expensive. The grand scheme of things, compared to the cost of the truck or the trailer or the John Deere mower, that's $40,000. It's a smaller amount of money, but it's when you multiply it by a number of pieces of equipment that you need,
Yes,
and then if you don't have it for the job, now you're impacting your
that's
productivity.
right.
So I mean,
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah. And
you know yeah,
and that's
it's
what
just really
I mentioned earlier is it's got to be at a price point too that makes sense. And so, and we're aware of that. We believe that we've achieved that. And so, you know, these, there's an ROI to every investment. But yeah, if you're replacing 35 string trimmers every year, you're going to make up that initial cost of getting those tags in there pretty quick.
Yeah. It make
Yeah,
a big difference. And then it helps the business owner with that, like like you just said. But it also helps the business owner hold the crew chiefs accountable.
that's right.
The crew
Yes,
chiefs, they may have five people on their team, in the truck, doing their projects. They're paid a higher salary. Well, they ought to step up the responsibility as well, and make sure that
part of their role.
that the guys they're doing what they're supposed to do. And
Yes.
it just helps the whole everything work better and hold everybody
Yeah.
accountable.
Well, and I'll take it a step further. Yes, that crew leader is being paid a higher salary, higher hourly wage because he is the crew leader. But and then he should also recognize that the more savings to the company, the more stable long term that company is going to be able to give raises and pay its bills and keep going out in marketing. There is that trickle down effect that says, hey,
Most
if I
definitely.
can free up $10,000 a year and not paying for new equipment, that's $10,000 that I can invest back in this business in other ways that are going to help us have a much higher rate of return on that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so
Feed the
it's
growth.
just that trickle down that goes all the way through the business.
Yeah, and honestly, that's one of the reasons I love this business in general so much, because I get to work with the small business owners, and as a small business owner myself, I can relate, I can empathize, I know about the sleepless
Hmm.
nights and the
Yes.
challenges that small businesses experience, and so I can relate with them, and we brainstorm and we kind of come up with ways to help. And
Yes.
sometimes the employees don't like what we do. I've had many of interaction with employees that think that GPS tracking is a big brother watching, and that the owner doesn't trust the employees. But the reality is, my standard response to the employees when they do challenge me is, if you're doing nothing wrong, you have nothing to worry about.
And
So
I go back to the idea that this is when you're on the clock, that is part of your duty is to look out for the company, and your leader is telling you this is what we need to do to be more efficient, more profitable. Not trying to we're not trying to penalize anybody. We're just trying to
right,
run a more efficient business because
right,
that's going to help all of us long term. Yeah,
very much
absolutely.
so. Very much so.
Yeah.
And then when we look at from a personal perspective, individuals that have these pieces of equipment that they want to, whether it be a tractor or a classic car or motorcycles or snowmobiles or jet skis, um, you know, even if the individual owns them, you want to know where those are. You want to be able to protect those
Hmm.
assets. You pay insurance, which is great, but we all know how expensive insurance is getting. And the reason insurance is getting so expensive is because all the claims the insurance companies are paying out. So
Yep.
everybody benefits. The insurance companies, if they can pay out fewer claims across
Hmm.
the board, that means we all pay less premium in our insurance,
That's right.
and that all help. So it all feeds the greater good. That we're all better off
Hmm.
because of it. So I'm very proud to be in this GPS space and love
Yep.
to work with people that appreciate it, understand it, and want to grow with it.
Absolutely, and the message that I consistently try to give, no matter who I'm talking to, whether it's a dealership, a bank, a guy who builds metal buildings in Oklahoma, is you don't have to live with the losses. There is a way to mitigate that. And GPS, specifically the SVR GPS solutions, are how you can do that. For a
Right.
relatively low cost, you're going to protect and gain so much on the back end that you're just unfortunately letting slip by right now and taking a huge risk. Even those vehicles or those pieces of equipment that you ultimately get back or you never have a default on, that's still a risk on your balance sheet. And what better insurance to put on that than a low cost GPS solution?
Right, right. And these battery units we touched on, I almost missed one point.
Hmm.
These battery units we're talking about, these are sealed batteries that can last for
That's right.
years, some 3 years, some even 5 years, without even
Hmm.
touching them. So they're
Right.
sealed, they're encased, they're protected from the elements, and it just works.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Like I said, our wireless, we have two devices today. There'll be more coming, but we also have a patented technology called Smart Power. And the Smart Power technology is an active battery management solution for each of these wireless devices. That's how we can say and guarantee you're going to get 3 years of life out of this. You're going to get 5 years of life out of this because of based on usage and the elements, and it's constantly calculating the conditions that it's in, and it is constantly calculating how often it is told to check in and locate and all those things.
Right.
We can really extend the battery life of these that we believe is a huge differentiator for us in this market. And
Yeah.
so we know we've got a technology that works, and we know how to build the product that is long lasting and sustainable. Um, let's get some more of those out there in different applications. So we're very proud of our product portfolio. But as I said, it's always a work in progress. We're always looking at making it better, and that's our
Right.
focus now.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And I'm happy that you're also very open to my feedback, because I'm not shy about sending my thoughts and my comments back to you, and I appreciate the fact that you're willing to accept that, and you know, do what you can, and sometimes you gotta say no. I get it.
Yeah. Well, and as I said, um, I am not the smartest guy in the room, and I never will be. I'm not the best salesperson in the room, and I never will be. Um, the way we get better is with the feedback, and sometimes that means I have to have guys like you tell me, hey Chad, um, this is a big pain point, or you're really letting me down right now. We really need to work on a solution. um, and sometimes that's hard to hear, but that's what helps make us better.
Yeah.
We've got room to grow. And look, the way I approach it is, I open the door for that feedback, and I willingly and certainly respectfully try to give that feedback to in return to everybody.
Right.
Hey, I want to help you get better. I'm going to criticize right now a little bit because your business could, I think, benefit so much from it. And so
Right.
I try to have that mindset. Some days it's harder than others, as you know.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
yeah, that's all part of the business relationship.
Yeah, yeah, and I do the same. I'm always open to feedback, because I too, I'm not the brightest bulb in the box, but I do work hard, and I'm willing to
Hmm.
be creative, and I have a very strong commitment to what I'm doing, and Precise Fleet Tracking has been in the business now for 5.5 years, and we're very committed to what we're doing, and we work hard to
Hmm.
satisfy each and every one of our clients. We have a very loyal base of clients, and want to keep it going. But I always
Yes,
open to how we can do things better, uh, faster, help more clients out, etc. So I do appreciate that
absolutely.
feedback. The other thing I wanted to touch on real quick, I wanted to make sure we talked about the buy here, pay here term,
Mhm.
and some of our audience members might not understand that. I want to clarify. We have solutions for new car dealers, and that's the big dealerships, the Toyota, Chevrolet, Cadillac dealerships you see around, and there are solutions that we can help those dealerships with,
Absolutely.
and whether it be their new cars or their used cars. the buy here, pay here space. That's the independent car dealer, and those are the dealerships you'll see in the neighborhood where they'll have the flags flying across their cars. You see a bunch of cars in a lot. You'll see a sign that says, $500 down. Everybody drives a car, no credit, no problem, kind of thing. Those dealerships, oftentimes, the dealership owner themselves, the person that owns those vehicles in that parking lot, they pay for those cars in full, and you pay that owner every 2 weeks or every month for the car. So if you can't get
Mhm.
financing through GMAC, for example, or through a bank, but you go to one of these dealerships, the owner is the one that is taking that responsibility to collect from you every so often, however your arrangement is worked out. So they have a major risk because they may have 20 cars in their parking lot, and these cars may average cost $8,000 or $10,000 a piece. When you do the math, that's a lot of money tied up there, and they have to collect that money from their car buyers. And if for some reason something happens to the vehicle, it gets impounded or something, they have to be able to recover that vehicle. So that's really, I wanted to explain, the buy here, pay here is when you have to pay the dealership themselves directly, and you're not paying a big
Mhm.
corporation like GMAC or Toyota financing, or et cetera. So just for any of our listeners that may not be familiar with that terminology, I just wanted to make sure that we clarified that for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of piggyback off that, in the event that a customer defaults and that dealership owner or a bank, for that matter, needs to recover that vehicle, they then have to pay a service, a repossession service, guys with tow trucks, to go out and try and find those vehicles somewhere. If you don't have a GPS device on that vehicle, it makes that sometimes pretty challenging. They're trying to look at, they're trying to skip trace things. So looking at where was their last place of residence, where was their last place of business, uh, who's their aunt, where does their mom live, and those guys unfortunately have to drive around and do a lot of reconnaissance. With a GPS device, recovery time is significantly reduced. I mean, sometimes within 20 to 30 minutes
Correct.
they can find that vehicle. And so, that's one of the beauties of this is it is a major cost savings in the long run when you're not trying to pay someone to go out and find that car and you're trying to piece together some incomplete facts about their
Right.
lives. Yep.
Right. And certainly vehicle repossession, it's a dark topic that nobody wants to think about, but it's a reality in our world. And as a
Yeah.
small business
Very
owner, if
dangerous
you own
job as
those,
well.
it is very dangerous. But if you're a
Yeah.
small business owner and you own these vehicles, and there's a lot of these car lots out there, they have their livelihood at stake. So it's a part of the overall equation that has to be factored into it. And we like work with these dealerships, and we know these dealers very well, many of them personally, because we're out there, and I'm on their lots regularly, delivering additional trackers to them and helping them through that. So it's really it's an important component. And I don't know. I wasn't aware. I wasn't sure if our audience really understood this. So I just wanted to clarify that for everyone, so we're on the same page. But Chad, I really wanted to thank you again for chatting with us today. I really appreciate the time you invested in this and helping me grow my business. And I'm proud to be an SVR dealer, and I want to continue to do that and grow with it, and see how we can help more people.
Well, the feeling is mutual. Thank you so much for having me. We're happy to be partnered with you, and we're really looking forward to the future. Thanks
Great.
for having me.
You bet. And to our listeners, thank you again. And if you have any of these assets that we've been talking about, and you just want to protect them, I encourage you to reach out to Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. You can find information about our company at precisefleettracking.com, precisefleettracking.com, or call us at 847-865-6008. 847-865-6008 is our office number. Love to talk to you and just have a conversation. No obligation, no hard pressure, just information sharing and see how we can serve you. So, again, thanks for listening to us again this week. Hope you all have a great week, and we'll talk with you again very soon. Take care. Thank you for listening to I Got a Guy podcast. For past podcasts and more information, go to igotaguypodcast.com. That's igotaguypodcast.com. Please share this podcast on your social media feeds and tune in again next week to I Got a Guy Podcast.